YanaTV, and in this episode, a famed director, Glen Goei, reveals his take on what it takes to truly become a happy person, gives advice to young people, and shares his incredible life story.
Best friend.
Right.
Okay. What would you wish to yourself today on your birthday?
What would I wish to myself? I would wish him happiness.
Happiness.
Yes.
Okay.
If you go to my WhatsApp page or my name, that's my tagline for the year. Tagline for the year is choose happiness.
Choose happiness.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, because very often, we can get so caught up in our lives, whether it's in our work or even in our studies or whatever, and we forget that life passes us by. We're just so caught up, and here in Singapore especially, everyone's working so hard, everyone's rushing around, even our social calendar is crazy, it's packed, right? And we just don't stop and breathe and be conscious and be mindful of the flowers or the tree or the sky or the rain, or just to take a moment to smell the rain. Now we're having a monsoon period, just like for a moment just smell the rain. Sometimes it's to look at the sunset or to look at the sunrise. I think we live such fast-paced lives that it's just important to just stop and breathe for a little bit and remind ourselves why we're here, and just be mindful of who we are and why we do what we do instead of becoming robots. Very often I go in the MRT, I go into Shenton Way, and everyone looks like they look like they're robots. Everyone's rushing around like ants, like little ants. All very hardworking. They all know their place, and they're all really working hard to achieve a goal. And I just want everyone to stop for a little bit. And anyway, my best friend, if I wish me happiness, just pause and to reflect on life, and to ask yourself, what do you want out of life, and what can you offer, how can you make a difference? I think that's a big thing for me. I always try every morning when I wake up to think, how am I going to make a difference to whether it's to myself, or whether it's to the people around me, or whether it's my workplace. How do I make a difference?
That's a big question.
Yes.
It's huge. But talking about happiness, so but you mentioned it's a lot about slowing down.
Yeah.
Being in the moment and just breathing.
Yes, yeah.
Right?
But it's also about doing something in your life that you enjoy doing, or that you have a passion for. I think that's very, very a big thing for me, because I'm a theatre director and I work in the arts. So that's 41 years I've been working in theatre.
What was your first play at the age of 11?
I can't remember, but it was an English play. And it was a murder mystery.
Murder mystery?
Yeah, murder mystery.
Okay.
And it was written by the same writer as Winnie the Pooh, A.A. Milne, an English writer. But I remembered I was 11 years old, and my teacher, it was the end of the term, and my teacher wanted a concert. And she said, Glenn, you will direct a play for the end of the term concert.
Is it how it started?
And that's how it started. It was somebody, in this particular instance, a teacher of mine, who empowered me. I was 11 years old. I'd never directed a play in my life. And she just said, out of this whole class of 45 students, she said, okay, she pointed to me, you will direct the play. And it was a sense of empowerment which I cannot describe to you, but it was very important to an 11-year-old child. A teacher handing me the responsibility to go to the library to read as many plays as I needed to find a play and then cast and then direct and produce the play for the school concert. And you know, I look back and I think, oh, what an amazing... I tell this story very often because I realized as I got older how important this particular event was in my life. And a person I respected, a teacher, a person of power, empowering me and giving me the responsibility of the school play.
That's a huge responsibility.
It's a huge... and of course I was young, I was naive, I was innocent. I didn't know what it entailed. But I just went and did it without knowing because I was so naive and I was so innocent. But I just did it. And
That's where it comes to. Just do it.
Yeah, just do it, yes. But you know, I didn't have many role models as I was growing up in Singapore in the 60s and 70s. I didn't have many role models. My role models were probably my brothers and sisters who were much older than me. I had 3 brothers and 3 sisters. And I mean, nowadays, you know, in the internet age, you have role models in Singapore, and Singapore has become a much more sophisticated society. But when I was growing up, Singapore was only, you know, if you take Singapore's independence in 1965, then when I was in school in 1970, Singapore was only 5 years old. There were very few role models. There was no professional theatre, there was no film industry, no one was making films, no one was making theatre. So to be full-time in the arts was a very difficult choice. So I didn't have any role models then. But there was this one teacher who trusted me and who gave me the confidence. Gave me the confidence to, you know, she didn't question. She just said, you will direct the play. She empowered me. And wow, that was, I didn't know what happened to me at that year, you know, when I was growing up. It's only much later in life when, you know, people have asked me, you know, what was so significant about your childhood? I remembered this incident. And this was the incident which made me who I am today.
Wow. Are you a rebel? Like, what do you think?
Am I a rebel? Would I consider myself a rebel?
Yes.
I always like to challenge the status quo. I always want to ask, is this the best way of living our life at the moment? At this moment, I always want to question, is this the best? And if it is not the best, then what is the best? Because I believe in change. I believe change is necessary in order for us to become better human beings and living in a happier world.
Then how do you facilitate change? Like for yourself, because you say it's so important, right?
Yeah.
You analyze first where you are.
Yes.
But then how do you actually do this facilitation for yourself and clearly for people around you?
Wow, what a big question.
You can take a moment to reflect.
How do I facilitate? I think change happens in here. Change happens in here, yeah. And that's why I work in the theatre. And I don't have the answers. I do not have the answers, but I can pose the questions and I can challenge my audiences to try to look at the world from a different point of view, to try to look at the world in a different perspective. Because there's 6 over billion people in this world, and everyone has a different opinion or a different taste or sensibility, and there's no right and wrong. There's no right and wrong. We're all different, unique characters and individuals, and we should celebrate that rather than impose what we think is the right way of living onto other people. This world is so much more colorful and interesting than the life that we only know how to live in, which is in this very comfortable box. You know, in Singapore, it's a very comfortable box we live in. But you know, life is beyond this box. Can be so much, infinite possibilities that this world and that this life has to offer. You know, for some people, they want to remain in this box, and that's fine. That's your choice too. This comfortable box we call Singapore, this middle class, you know, secure, comfortable, low crime rates. You know, everything is provided for us. That's absolutely fine. That's your choice. But I like to offer my audiences a different look beyond their comfort zones. And to say, why not try to look at it this way? Because it might make your life so much richer.
For those who are willing to follow your footsteps, you know, what kind of advice would you like to give to young people? If they want to become directors, or maybe if they want to do any other career in the world of theatre,
Yes.
you know, is there anything specific that you think they should really pay attention to and would make a big difference for them in the current age?
Right, okay. I think in Singapore, young people are very spoiled and very comfortable, and they don't want to move out of their comfort zones. They're too afraid to take that one step outside their comfort zone. They are too cocooned in Singapore. You know, they live with their parents, their families, and the mothers look after their food and their washing, and everything's looked after for them. And young people are not afraid of taking that step out of their comfort zone anymore. A lot of them go, yes, they like to travel overseas to study, but after their university education is over, they come straight back to mommy and daddy, you know, in this comfort zone. And I think that I think it's important to have the courage to step out of the comfort zone, because you don't know what the world has to offer until you take that step. And you have nothing to lose when you're young, and when you step out of the comfort zone and take that risk. You have nothing to lose, but you have everything to gain. Really, really. When I decided to go to drama school after university, my parents were very, very against me going to drama school. And we're talking now about 1986. 1986 in Singapore, there was no professional theatre company. There was no arts. There was no theatre. You know, it was all amateur theatre. And I said to my mom and dad, I wanted to go to drama school in London. I was studying in Cambridge at the time. And I said, I want to spend 1 year of my life studying acting. And they thought I was crazy. But I really, really had to follow my instinct. My gut instinct told me that this was something I loved doing so much. I had so much passion for it. If I didn't do this, I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be fulfilled as a human being. I think in life, it is important to find meaning in life and to find meaning in what you do. Whatever occupation you choose, make sure you enjoy it. Even if you're an accountant or an engineer or a laboratory assistant, make sure you find meaning in what you do. You know, don't do a job just because it's paying very well, you know, because if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to excel in it. And success is not always measured in terms of money or in terms of, you know, what car or what house you live in. You know, success is not measured in fame or fortune either. I think success is actually measured in happiness.
Have you been rejected a lot yourself?
Yes, I mean, when I was younger, yes. When I was younger, I was rejected a lot. As an actor, living in London, because I'm Chinese, I get a lot of rejections. And first and foremost, they won't even see me. I was living in England in the 1990, and it was very, very difficult because there were very few roles for Chinese actors. And whenever I did get a role, it was always for a stereotypical role. I was always either playing a cook, or a drug dealer, or a smuggler, or what else? Casino gambler, or you know, or a triad gangster. That's all I was cast as, right? It was a very stereotype that only Chinese come from these professions. So, so I faced. It was the roles were very limiting, and it was difficult. It was difficult. So what happened was
What kept you going, right? Because clearly you were rejected so many times.
Actually, I didn't keep on going. What I did was I said to myself, I'm tired of being dependent on other people giving me work, and work which I didn't like, work which I felt was racist. And so I set up my own theatre company. I decided I'm going to take my life into my own hands. And I'm going to set up my own theatre company, and I'm going to produce plays with Asian themes for Asian actors in London. Because there were no Asian theatre companies that were doing Asian work for Asian actors. And instead of complaining like, oh, racist, stereotype, there are no roles for Chinese or Asian actors, I set up my own theatre company.
That's amazing, Glen.
Yeah.
That's, I just want to highlight it because this is exactly what we're talking about, I mean, you could have made other choice and just kind of sunk in self-pity and self-destruction, and probably you would be nowhere today, but that's the interesting part, that you had this experience where clearly you felt that you were underappreciated, and you were left out, and maybe some element of racism there, but you reflected on that and took responsibility over your life in your hands. And created opportunities for yourself first. They didn't even exist. And now you're creating all those opportunities for all those other Asian actors. So it's amazing how you took this experience and you transformed it into something that empowered you first. And now you empower other people.
And I was trained as a theatre director. No, as an actor. So I was trained as an actor in drama school in London, right? But in 1990, when I was faced with this problem of being unemployed because there were no roles for Chinese actors, and I set up my own theatre company, then I became a director, right? And that has taken me to where I am today, 25 years later, still directing. And I've stopped acting. My first love is acting. I trained as an actor, but for the past 25 years, I've been a director. And it goes back to when I was 11 years old. Yes, the teachers asked me, she pointed to me, and I had to produce and to direct my first play at the age of 11. So in 1990, when I was 28 years old, and I was going to be turning 30, and I was unemployed, and I had just done a West End starring role with Anthony Hopkins in M Butterfly. And then after that, I was unemployed. I just thought, what am I going to do with my life?
So you were 30?
I was 28.
28. I'm just pausing, for those who are 28 hours there and they're unemployed, there is hope. Okay, so it's not the end of the world to be unemployed at the age of 28.
When I was 26, I was starring in the West End with Anthony Hopkins, playing the title role in a play called M Butterfly by David Henry Hwang. I had my name in lights. I was on the cover of the newspapers with Anthony Hopkins. Everything. The world was my oyster. The world was at my feet at the age of 26. At the age of 27, I was unemployed. I couldn't find any work. I had been nominated for the Laurence Olivier Award for Best Newcomer to British Theatre, and I had no work. I was 27 years old. Well, from being so high up all the way down.
What have you learned?
And so
again, because clearly you did.
I decided to take life by its throat. Take life by its throat, find my own life and make my own way. Be proactive. If you want to remain in the theatre, you love since I love the theatre so much, what am I going to do about it? I was waiting for the telephone to ring every day, for my agent to call me to go for auditions. Why am I waiting for other people to offer me work? I create my own work. I set up my own theatre company. I found my own theatre above a pub, a 30-seater theatre above a pub. I got my actress, I found a play, and I said, okay, I'm going to be a theatre director.
This is basically how it started.
This is how it started in 1991. I was 29 years old. I was 28 going on 29. And this is how I started directing professionally. Although, of course, thank God for my teacher when I was 11. I had the confidence. I had the confidence to be a theatre director in London. Yeah. So that's what happened. And here I am today at the age of 52,
So
still
how did
directing.
you, still directing,
Yeah,
yes.
and having made a career out of it, in spite of all the difficulties, and in spite of my parents not being very happy that I
Tell a
was
bit more
working
about
with theatre.
that, you know, because I know it's very relevant, particularly in Asia. If as a child you choose a profession that is in some way unconventional.
It's unconventional
How?
and it doesn't earn you any money.
Yes.
And till today, it still doesn't earn you any money because you're choosing the life of an artist. And I think when you choose a life of an artist, you live your life according to very different principles and standards. Very, very different. You cannot measure and compare yourself with friends of yours who are working in the bank or in the law firm. You choose art because you are following your calling. It's a calling. You know, sometimes when you're down and out and unemployed and poor, you think it's a curse. So sometimes.
Have you been there?
Oh yes, yes. In fact, I go through it all the time. For me, it's not so much about being unemployed and poor. For me, it's about self-doubt. It's about self-doubt, and that's the worst thing.
That's crucial, yes.
That's
Because
worse.
I know, you
Oh.
know, all are people who are creative, they suffer from that.
Oh,
you know,
I'm going
so
through it now.
how-
Right now, I'm
yes.
going through it. I just had a very successful show called The Dim Sum Dollies at the Esplanade Theatre. It closes tomorrow night. Very, very successful. And after every show, I have self-doubt.
How do you go through
like,
that?
It's like, is that the best piece? Is that my best work? Could I have done better? Did I compromise my integrity? Why didn't I make it better than I think? I think it can be better. I always self-doubting myself, and did I compromise myself? And if I compromise my integrity, am I truly an artist? So on and so forth. And what is my next work? What is my next work? And very often, if the work's not successful, if audience don't come or the reviewers, the critics don't like it, again, even more self-doubt.
How do you deal with that? Because I know, you're a public figure, right? And
Yeah.
it's always, it's a basic human nature. We
Yeah.
want to be accepted by others.
Yes.
It goes from very
Yes.
young age.
Yes.
So being in a position and choosing a profession, it is so on the spot.
And it's very public.
So people have opinions.
Yes.
So how do you deal with rejection? Not rejection, probably more criticism criticism. How do you deal with that?
With dancers with great difficulty. I deal with it with great difficulty. I do a lot of soul searching. I spend a lot of time on my own thinking and rethinking and questioning my integrity. Always questioning my integrity. Like questioning my intentions. Like, yes, I did that play. It was unsuccessful. The audience didn't come. The critics hated it. But what was I trying to say in that play? And was I trying to say it with integrity? Or was my ego in the way? Is my ego in the way? What was I doing that production for myself? Or was I doing it for my audience? And what was so important that I wanted to say in that production? And did I say it properly? Or did my ego get in the way? It's always about that. Because as an artist, you're always struggling with the ego. You're always struggling with the ego and the art. And you cannot put the ego completely aside, because ego is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, tell me more about that. Yes, it's important.
It's about
so what is ego? How would you define it?
It's about handling, knowing how to manage that ego. Because human beings, we need an ego. Ego is our fire. It's our chi, right? It's what makes us who we are. But we also have a spiritual side to us, right? And it's about balance. Everything's about balance, about maintaining balance. You cannot completely get rid of the ego. If you want to completely get rid of the ego, then you can be a nun or a monk, okay? And not all of us have that calling to be a nun or a monk, right? Or a priest, right? Put away your ego. No. We all live in this world, and it's important for us to live in this world, for the world to continue as it is. So we need that ego. We need it. It's just how we manage the ego and don't allow the ego to overtake the art. Because ultimately, for me as an artist, the art is more important.
I think this is a generation that is driven by purpose, and if we show them the purpose, they will rise up and be able to change the world for a better place.